This is the BBC.
Dear brothers and sisters, all are welcome here at the Confessions podcast, whether saint or sinner.
Well, hey, and thank you for downloading another top podcast from your friends at Radio 2, where it's always Christmas.
Oh, please.
Well, look out the window. What's it look like
Yeah,
to
no,
you?
it is. You're right.
88 to 91 FM.
So at the time of this recording, we're snowed into the studio and we may never, ever get out. And so we're going to spend the weekend together, the three of us.
Oh,
which is
imagine
going to be
that.
a really, really lovely
Trying.
thing. In this week's collection of tales, we feature Robert's Confession, Merry-Go-Roundabout, Roger's Tale, Between a Rock and a Card Place, Andy's Tale, Wales of the Unexpected, and a classic confession where we may lose just a tad of our professional sheen, if we've got any, after the words buffed and rinsed are mentioned in close proximity. But first we start with Janet's confession, Scenes from a Lancastrian Restaurant.
Simon Mayo's Confessions podcast. Please be seated.
It's Father Simon, Brother Matt, Sister Bobby. In the early 1990s, in a secret location somewhere in the northwest, I was getting ready to go on a date with someone I had met through my work. David was not a colleague, but an external consultant. And although I had never actually met him in the flesh, we had enjoyed many telephone conversations. Why are you looking puzzled?
Why is he... am I missing something with external consultant, or is that just his job?
No, he's just, I don't know, he's advising from afar.
Maybe you're not allowed to date someone at work, but he's an external consultant, so there's some grey area.
Oh, really?
I think you're all reading too much into,
Okay.
into this. Basically, they hadn't met, they'd just spoken on the phone in a flirty fashion. Over time, these conversations have become longer, straying from the fascinating topic of office supplies to much more personal matters. And these chats, with lots of flirting, there you go, were conducted almost every day, much to the annoyance of my colleagues who shared an open-plan office space. It was much to everyone's relief then when, at the end of the latest phone call, David said, "I'll be in town next week. Will you meet me for dinner?" "Of course," I said, but I was immediately set with panic. What should I wear? What will he look like? What will he think of me? Anyway, the evening arrived and I left the office with shouts of good luck from my colleagues. As I got ready, I calmed my nerves with a glass or two of wine.
This is going to end well.
Or three, if I'm completely
good idea.
honest, and possibly a vodka. But my memory is a little hazy on this point. These drinks started to have the desired effect quickly, as due to nerves about the impending date, I hadn't eaten anything all day. Oh, dear me,
What?
no. I arrived at the meeting point and my first reaction was, ooh, not bad. At the sight of a tall, handsome man standing there waiting. "Are you David?" I said. "Yes," he said, looking happy to see me in the flesh, as it were. What neither of us were to know was that this moment was to be the high point of the date. David had booked a table at a very exclusive restaurant, which, to be honest, isn't my natural habitat. To be honest, I would have been more at home at the chain pizza restaurant just a few doors away, but this didn't feel like the time to say. David had obviously gone to a lot of effort to impress. Within what felt like seconds of arriving in this very swanky restaurant, the waitress arrived with the menus, but reading it was no easy task. Maybe it was the small writing, maybe the muted lighting, possibly even the alcohol in my system.
Possibly, yeah.
But more likely it's because I was too vain to get my reading glasses out of my bag on a first date. Or all of them, I think. I was about to concede that my glasses were going to have to make an unwelcome appearance when suddenly three things happened all at once. First, a strange smell filled my nostrils and my eyes started to water. Second, my menu was whisked out of my hands. Third, I noticed the waitress hurrying to the corner of the restaurant holding my menu, which was now on fire. I watched in horror as she produced a miniature fire extinguisher and efficiently put the fire out. The waitress came back holding the new menu. "Don't worry, madam. Don't worry, madam. Happens all the time," she said with a straight face, discreetly moving the lit candle from the middle of our table. As what had just happened began to sink in, I was filled with a fit of the giggles. This was made all the worse by the fact that David did not laugh at all, not even a smile. He looked mortified, and the other diners, not even one of them raised an eyebrow. They all pretended not to notice the drama happening at the corner table, or indeed the acrid, melted plastic scent that was now making its way through the restaurant. I had to stifle my giggles. If if you've ever tried to do this, you'll know that stifle giggles need somewhere to go. So while David and I gamely tried to act like nothing had happened and started a conversation, snorts started to come out of my nose. And I wish I could say it was just snorts. So with...
What?
David, could you order for me, please? Anything vegetarian is fine. I headed off to the ladies where I could let out my hysterical giggles like a madwoman, planning to glide effortlessly back into the restaurant once I had regained my composure. However, when I exited the ladies, I had a problem. There were 2 identical doors with no signage. One of the doors must be the way back into the restaurant. This was not the door I chose. The one I chose turned out to be the cleaning cupboard, and this became clear to me upon opening the door when a mop, a broom and some other metallic cleaning implements clattered loudly to the floor, a sound which was surely heard throughout the dining room. Hastily, I sort of picked them up, pushed them back into the cupboard, and sort of closed the door. I was conscious I'd been gone a long time by this point, and that David was waiting. So with some trepidation, I opened the correct door, with what could in hindsight be described as more force than was strictly necessary, and the door sprung open, and the loud bang it made as it hit the restaurant interior wall made all the diners jump, and David looked up to see me stumbling rather than gliding back into the restaurant. Well, we carried on gamely with the date, but the easy banter we'd so enjoyed on the phone was gone, for various reasons. I can't even tell you what we ate or drank, but I do remember that at periodic moments I had to quell another snort or two as the giggles resurfaced. I suspect a quiet word in the waiter's ear by David meant that the desserts and coffees arrived together, as he obviously wanted the date to come to an end pretty darn quickly. My lemon mousse looked gorgeous, but I was never to find out. As I lifted my coffee to my lips for a first sip, my eyes looked up and caught the sight of a water sprinkler on the ceiling. Imagining the sprinklers going off all over the diners during the menu fire was the final nail in the coffin in terms of my self-composure. I started to laugh hysterically, dropping the entire cup of coffee into the lemon mousse, creating a mini volcanic eruption effect on the once white linen tablecloth and all over my dress. Amid the glares of the other diners, at once again causing a disturbance, David managed in just a couple of seconds to ask for the bill, order a taxi, retrieve my coat, usher me out of the door with a peck on the cheek and a vague promise to call me. We never did go out again, strangely, and as he moved jobs just afterwards, we only had a couple of phone calls to endure. So obviously I'm writing to you, as is traditional, to ask for forgiveness, not to David for ruining the date or disrupting the evening of the other diners. Quite frankly, they could have all benefited from ordering a sense of humour from the menu. Lighten up, losers! However, I would like to apologise to the waitress, who on witnessing the succession of events lost her professional demeanour and had a clear case of snortitis. I'd also like forgiveness from the cleaning staff at the restaurant. Not only had I destroyed their cleaning cupboard, but I'm sure they were finding spots of coffee-flavoured lemon mousse cake all around our seating area for many days to come. And I'm sure the stained tablecloth was a complete lost cause. I mean, as first dates go, that's pretty catastrophic, really. And it all went wrong before they'd even met, because I mean, I'm just suggesting conservatively that 3 glasses of wine and a vodka on an empty stomach before a date, usually a very, very bad idea. Anyway, Sister Bobby.
Yes, I was going to say Janet is really a girl after my own heart, apart from the drinking bit at the beginning. But the thing is I love Janet, and I think she had a sense of humour, and I think it's really important to be yourself in the restaurant. So she was herself, so David can make a quick decision whether to invest in. Well, you know, I think she had a great sense of humour. I think she was lovely, and I think also the waitress would have forgiven you because she seems like she had as much fun over you as you did. David, I think, well, you know, no love lost there for either of you, so I think it's fine. And also the other diners, come on, it's your responsibility when something happens to someone else to make them feel okay about it, not to make them feel, well, no, just to kind of go, it's all right, don't worry, we've all done that. Love the waitress, the rest of them, you're forgiven, Janet.
What I want to know is, what is a posh restaurant doing having a laminated menu?
That struck me as well. I mean, come on, you know, you can afford it.
Laminated menu.
I mean, just in case something gets on them, who'd have thought? We are firmly in sitcom land here,
yes,
aren't we? With menus on fire, open up broom cupboards, and then dropping your coffee in your mousse. We've all been there as well. Which of us can honestly say we've never been on a date that hasn't ended disastrously after you've had a little bit too much to drink? Not you, Bobby, put your hand down. So I am going to forgive.
Both our hands
both
Both
of your
hands
hands
are
are
up.
up. Well, we've all been there. So obviously, David, better off without him, as it turns out, because he was going to his moving job anyway, and there was no future in that relationship. He was off, so definitely forgiven.
The Confessions Podcast.
Father Simon and the forever forgivers, except Bobby, who never ever does. But thanks in advance to Matt.
Yeah.
Hey, but that's not true, is it? It's not a fact.
There's an essence of truth.
No, it's
there.
50-50.
I
Don't
think
ever. But getting forgiven by me is
it counts for more.
It does.
Being forgiven
Does
by
it?
Matt is like rubbish. He'd forgive anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite right, fellow man.
Could I take you back to the summer of 2014, Father Simon and team, when the FIFA World Cup was being played in Brazil? Different times, warmer days. Like yourself and Matt, I believe, but unlike Bobby, who never forgives anyway, I'm a huge football fan and was hugely enjoying the World Cup. Well, when the inconvenience of work wasn't getting in the way, which, quite frankly, was all the blooming time, and in short, I hadn't seen any football action at all. So on the day in question, which was a Saturday, World Cup football was my only thought, and I was more excited than a man on his wedding day. It was going to be a beautiful day. Then my happy thoughts were broken when my wife Elaine said, "When are we going to go and buy the cards?" "What cards?" I replied, which was followed by a long sigh. Then, "I told you we need to get 4 birthday cards for the children." Okay, no problem, we can go this afternoon, I said, and a couple of hours later we popped down to the local retail park and the well-known greeting card outlet which it housed. As we arrived at the door, my wife, myself and our nearly 4-year-old daughter walked in without incident, and the ritual 45-minute card search began. With a badge, without a badge, arty or funny, who knows, I can never tell. My mind started to wander. I wonder who's playing this afternoon. Have I got my league tables up to scratch? What's for tea? I wonder if I can go out for a shandy when the game's on. Anyway, during the... It's not paying a lot of attention. I found a chair. I sat down. It was all very exhausting. During the card search, I was staring at the wall with my thoughts as outlined above, but could feel our daughter rummaging around. "What are you doing?" I asked her, to which my wife bellowed, "Leave her alone, she's being quiet." I tried to reply, and then I was interrupted. "Just leave her alone, she's being quiet." So I did. At this point, my mind started wandering again. How's that Cameroon national anthem go? Can I get a pint with Dad tonight? I hope Germany aren't playing. And then I got a call. "Okay, cards are chosen." And the fateful moment for which I seek forgiveness actually happened. In a thankful voice, I said, "Okay, I'll get the envelopes." And I picked the 4 corresponding envelopes up. However, I immediately realised something was wrong, and hesitantly I asked, gently and mildly, I thought, "Why are these envelopes sealed?" "Oh, don't be ridiculous," shouted my always patient wife. And I looked at my beautiful daughter, who was standing with her arms behind her back, swaying sweetly, and I realised the horrible truth. Whilst I'd been dreaming of football and beer, and our mum was in the world of children's greetings cards, our 4-year-old had licked and sealed hundreds of envelopes for and then replaced them. I think in retrospect she'd licked every single envelope in display. Envelopes for birthday cards, sealed. Wedding cards, sealed. Anniversaries, christenings, congratulations, commiserations, jokey, tacky, arty cards, all sealed. The silent panic began. "We're leaving!" That's me to my wife. "But we haven't paid," was the unusually quiet reply. I snatched the cards and the envelopes, threw them at the shelves, putting them back, obviously, and grabbed my wife and daughter by the hand and dragged them out of the shop. "We're leaving now!" As we were leaving the shopping park, I told my wife of the crime that our daughter had committed, which, when you think about it, would have cost hundreds of pounds. Anyway, she laughed for the whole of the way home. Anyway, so that's kind of family we are. Anyway, I'm not asking for forgiveness from the shop staff, management, supervisors or cleaners. The amount of cards displayed is frankly ridiculous. I only ask for absolution from anyone who, in the summer of 2014, bought a greeting card for a child but found the accompanying envelope was already sealed. I would say our daughter was punished for this, but 20 minutes later, she was given a Happy Meal. Anyway, I await Bobby's telling off and reprimand because Roger knows what's coming. Anyway, see, I like that because I don't think we'd had that before. And if you're not paying attention, a 4-year-old is just doing what a 4-year-old is tempted to do. There are envelopes there. They're not sealed. I'm going to lick them all. Gotta lick them all. That's what the Pokemon say. So there you go. And he's not paying attention for at least 45 minutes. It's quite possible to lick every envelope in a shop in that amount of time. If you're 4, Sister Bobby.
Roger, what did you expect? You're thinking about football. You're on this delightful shopping trip with one of your children.
Yes.
Your lovely 4-year-old that is inquisitive and engaged and having fun. And what you're doing is not being engaged with her. You're thinking about Cameroon and is
And the national
Neymar going
anthem.
to play
Yes.
and all those other things that are not half as interesting as your lovely 4-year-old. So, of course, Roger, I'm not going to forgive you because it's your fault. It's not your little girl's fault. It's not your wife's fault. Everyone else is engaged. It's absolutely your fault. And I think, actually, I'm not sure about the running off. I think you should have paid. I think you should have paid up because it's all your
He
fault.
handed them back, so he didn't.
For not watching your child.
Yes,
I think
yes.
it's your responsibility, Roger. So, as you rightly expected, not forgiven.
I like the way he actually blames the shop for look at all those cards. How am I?
Yes.
How can I
How very
choose when you
dare
put
they?
out everything?
A couple of things here.
Yes.
Number one, who spends 45 minutes choosing cards? That way insanity lies.
Yes.
Go in, pick a card. It doesn't matter what's on the front of the card. No one looks at the front of the card. They always look at the message inside or whether there's any money inside the card. And then oh, thanks very much. Was there a present? No, right, move on. No one ever looks at the front of the card. Number two, who ever heard of a chair in a shop? I want to go to this shop. The number of times I have to stand around while other people are spending 45 minutes choosing a card. There's a chair in the shop. Superb. But there is a problem here, and it's about the system. The system of why aren't the envelopes with the card? I'm not going to buy the card without an envelope. Why are they separate? Who's keeping them separate? Is the problem put by the shop. So not the 4-year-old's fault, and certainly not Roger's fault. It's all to do with the card shop. So I am going to forget.
All right, exactly as I thought you'd.
Yes, I did.
Simon Mayo's Confessions Podcast.
So that was Roger's confession between a rock and a card place, which left us with one very big unanswered question, didn't it, Matt? Didn't it, Bobby?
It did.
Thank you for actually joining in.
Sorry.
And
Concentrating.
I thought I was
participating.
missing my cue.
No.
All
It's
right.
this question. It came up in the People's Verdict. Forgiving Simon, how does the Cameroon national anthem go anyway?
How does it go?
It's Archie in Falkirk. I'm not sure.
No.
Could check that out. Well, now
So did we find out?
Well, here on the Confessions podcast, we don't like to leave any stone unturned. So all stand, please. It's the Cameroon national
It
anthem.
is, yeah, this
Doesn't
is-
matter where you are in the world, they all sound the same.
Yeah.
Sounds like a hymn or a marching song.
Got a bit of pep.
I reckon I'm going to suggest that the next playlist meeting. That actually
Yes.
we include that.
Dare you?
I've had a thought. I've had a very interesting thought. We should play a different national anthem every week.
Oh, yes, please.
And we should have to stand at every occasion. So it's no use just playing this. But I think I am actually going to stand.
Let's all stand.
A sign of respect.
I'm going to have a drink.
No, you can't drink at the same time. Is that your red Welsh wine?
Yes, it is. Very good. Very happy with my Welsh wine.
Stand.
Lovely. Still standing.
Invite you to stand.
Yeah.
That's disrespectful. We know your sort.
Yes.
Now, as we do at this juncture, most podcasts, it's time to see what new bits and pieces have appeared on the parish notice board. There it is. Matt, hey,
Yes.
what's caught your eye?
Well, Wendy in Everingham has emailed in. She says, "Hi, Simon and the rest of the team.
Oh, hi.
Hi. I'm currently whizzing my way back to London from York through lovely snowy fields and pink sunsets. I was listening to your podcast, but I had to change over to your normal programme as I was finding it very hard not to laugh out loud. I have never subscribed to any podcast before until I started listening to your ones. I started playing hockey last year at the ripe old age of 52. It has been fantastic, and I even managed to get into the team. Lovely bunch of ladies at Redbridge and Ilford Hockey Club. Anyway, due to the hockey matches and practice, I need to take more hot baths than I needed to before to enable me to get out of bed the next morning. Baths are a bit boring to lie and soak in, so I decided to listen to your podcasts while I'm soaking in a therapeutic hot bath. They are fantastic, and also the podcasts. Really, really fun. I love your radio show and always have it on in the house when I'm home cooking the dinner.
I think there's almost too much love in that.
There
in
is.
that one email.
I felt it all coming through.
But we love Wendy Everingham, and that's the truth of the matter. It's very nice to hear. What is the optimum amount of time in a bath? I think 20
Days.
minutes. Well,
What?
no, 20. I think 20 minutes because you got to let the hot water do its work.
I tend to get very bored very quickly in
See,
baths.
I didn't get to see. I like Wendy, but I don't agree with the bath. I could stay in a bath all day as long as I can top it up.
Really?
Yeah, listen to stuff. You
Yeah.
listen to some music, listen to a podcast, listen to us.
I could.
Listen to
yes.
yourself.
I think it's just the only time I stop still. You know, too busy.
I have lots of interesting thoughts in the bath.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Moving on.
What I mean is,
I've actually
if you don't take in any kind of social media or any kind of stimulation, then it's quite easy for your brain to go freewheeling, and you think lots of really weird things.
Do you have bath toys?
Like what?
Do you have a duck and a thing that swims underwater?
A submarine. I've got a Thunderbird 4. Yeah,
I was joking.
I think everyone's got a Thunderbird 4.
I'm going to have
haven't
another drink.
No. Anyway,
what you got, Bobby?
another mini U-rated confession.
Oh, good.
Our favourite. It comes from Pablo, who is aged
All right, Pablo.
8 years
Yes.
old. And he says, "Dear Simon and the team, I seek forgiveness for an event that happened only last Saturday. I was at my grandfather's house and we had some noisy neighbours who were having a big party in their garden. What I did is I went up a tree and I shouted, 'Hey guys, would you mind turning the volume down?'"
Wow.
That's Pablo, age 8, by the
Yeah.
way. It's my
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
impression. "I seek forgiveness from the members of that house who were minding their own business, also from the poor tree, which I squashed, and also from my dad, who told me off for being rude. Am I forgiven? Love, Pablo, age 8. P.S. I am your number one fan and rush home from school on Fridays to listen to the podcast. We sadly cannot listen to your show live because we live in Spain."
Oh, okay. Well, come back to the UK then.
No, he's definitely
No,
forgiven.
absolutely.
Definitely forgiven.
Of course he's forgiven. And actually, it was down to your neighbours to actually keep the noise down. And Pablo, so you did. Well, I don't want to be, drive a wedge between you and your dad, but I suspect you might have done the right thing. Oi, Pablo's neighbours, back off.
I think-
Turn down the volume.
I think he can be forgiven. I think his dad did the right thing telling him off, but I quite like his cheekiness.
How is he squashing a tree if he's only 8?
It's
Not
a
a very
small
big tree.
tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
a
hub of the
small
story.
Spanish tree.
Yes.
So that didn't
Not
go very
hardy.
far, did it? Anyway, what else we got here? So this says, "Dear Father Simon and the Confessional Collective, I am Robert. I am 14 years old. I live in Germany. We moved here 4 years ago. My mum told me about your podcast, and I've been listening ever since. For the last 6 months or so, I have wanted a bumper sticker really, really badly. But as I'm not old enough to drive, I didn't think it would be such a good idea to ask. It was then I remembered that I'm the proud driver of my dad's red tractor lawnmower.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Picture.
Very good,
there.
yeah.
And it has a great grass catcher, perfect for a sticker. I've just finished signing up both my brother and my dad to your podcast and rated you 5 stars on iTunes with
Brilliant. Well
with
done.
all 3 devices. Now, I don't know if you can send a sticker to Germany, so perhaps you could send it to my grandma in England and then she can post it to me. I also hope that you really still have some stickers somewhere, that I'm not too late." This is
Have we
from
still
Robert
got those
Cox.
stickers?
Well,
Didn't we take even the one from your mum?
I think we did, actually.
Oh,
Yes.
dear.
We're stickerless.
We're sad to say this sticker stockpile is well and truly gone, so no car sticker requests for the moment.
Goodness me.
But I think we need to send Robert something.
Okay, Matt.
No.
So he's free.
Well,
he's cheap.
who's-
Breakfast have always got stuff. Steve Wright, how about a Steve Wright badge?
He doesn't have a Steve
I
Wright
chose
badge.
I chose the oldies on Steve Wright in the afternoon.
But that's different, and you have to do a different thing
he's
for that.
not going to know.
Yes, he is. He counts all the badges. He's got a little cupboard with them in and a drawer.
Can't you distract him, Bobby? And
No,
then take
no,
one of
I
his
don't
badges?
get me involved.
Okay, Robert
Yeah.
will send something to your grandma, which our production team will find.
Yes.
And then your grandma can do with it what she willeth. Anyway, Robert, thank you very much indeed for your commitment. So this is the dirty, grubby part of the notice board that we have to get ready for. This is the trawl through the gutter. So we highlight the confessions that haven't made the cut due to the very unfair, draconian compliance rules on the BBC.
Quite right.
Or maybe due to the fact that they're just filled with dodgy stuff.
Yeah.
If we read them out on the radio, we'd probably end up in prison.
Yes.
Which some people might find hilarious. But not just yet, eh? Russell, we can all relate to your tale of teenage experimentation.
Hello.
So we almost turned a blind eye to your tale of underage drinking and smoking. Well, right up to the point where you relieve yourself from the top of a hay bale with your friend unwittingly standing directly below.
Hay bale?
And in shock, said friend drops his cigarette onto a stack of hay,
Oh, my.
burning all the farmer's hay to a crisp, a week's worth.
What? Obviously, that
I'm
would
not
make
sure
it.
we can even get this
No.
in the podcast, really.
No.
That's not even funny at all.
It's not
I don't
even funny,
it's
Bobby.
Not
It's
even
not
funny.
Not
funny.
even funny.
So stop your smirking and your smoking. Anyway, that's just very. There's so many bad things happening all in
Yes.
one thing. Next, hope you're not eating while listening. Confession goes to Rachel for her story about her free spraying cat.
Okay.
The shine it took to Rachel's new bread bin. And her unwitting dad making a sandwich, and you can work out the rest for yourself.
Oh, what, to the bread bin?
Wasn't a great sarnie anyway. A
Yeah.
little damp. A little bit smelly. Speaking of food, Jane, the farmer's ex-wife, was understandably upset when she discovered her husband was cheating on her. Oh, this is getting heavy.
Oh.
But does that justify getting the family dog to lick the frying pan before making her husband's breakfast? The same dog that liked to snack on sheep poo. No, I haven't quite finished. Before giving his own undercarriage a good lick.
No, we
Clean.
we'd pretty much worked that one out.
I reckon that's probably
Yes.
okay. What's wrong with that?
No. I mean,
Thing is, you've got hot fat and a hot pan, so it could probably pass because it made her feel good, but it won't do any damage.
really?
Well,
I'm not having something licking my pan and then burning it off. Steady, you two, please. I'm the one on the wine. Dear, oh dear.
And finally, Nikki, I know you were very excited to be in the airport lounge for the first time, and that might explain why you overhelped yourself to the free bar. But when you woke up at the end of your flight, don't you think you should have mentioned to the cabin crew the little damp patch you left behind on your seat?
No.
The stain may have evaporated by the time you departed the plane,
Doubt it.
but the smell definitely hadn't.
Oh.
And so, we have to say, you're not forgiven. Just to be clear, absolutely none of those are okay. But send them in anyway. Your confessions, confessions at bbc.co.uk. But will you be able to look your friends and family in the eye afterwards and say, that was me, I did that?
No.
If in doubt, send it in. Still to come in this week's podcast. What on earth could be occurring in this confession to provoke one of our listeners to say, Steve says, sometimes I wish my brother had locked me in my bedroom. That's very good. And then adds, all is okay now as I've met the love of my life.
Yes, I'm sure it's all fine.
But before all that, it's time for another accent masterclass.
Oh, good.
Oh, yes. It's Robert's tale, Merry-Go-Roundabout.
The Confessions Podcast.
Dear Father Simon and the collective, my confession dates back to the late 1960s when I attended Hull University. My girlfriend at the time was an American who was completing the last 2 years of her degree there. Her name was Anne, and her father was Wild Bill Collins, a former US Air Force pilot who had once flown an aircraft through Tower Bridge.
Wow,
How about that?
Really?
No, that's impressive.
This is pretty impressive
Meant
stuff.
to do that.
Sometime after Anne and I met, Wild Bill brought the rest of the family to London, and we had a meal at an expensive restaurant in the Strand, then much beloved of Americans. Mrs. Collins insisted on sitting next to me and engaged me in conversation for 2 hours, while the rest of the family looked on in silence. Very strange. Next day, Bill took me aside and said, Oh, hang on.
Oh, great. No, it's got to be an accident, obviously. Here it comes.
Deep south.
He's wild, remember?
Yeah, very, very wild.
Don't pile up the pressure. It is what it's going to be, and that's the way it is.
Snow affected.
So Bill took me to one side. He said, "Say, so,
Sure. Money penny. Yeah, go on.
have you ever seen a movie called The Graduate, son? Oh, biggest heap of garbage I ever saw. As if a beautiful woman like Anne Bancroft would fall for a skinny excuse of a human like Hoffman." I realised then I was being given a significant message by Wild Bill Collins. A few months later, Wild Bill gave his daughter a gift, a brand new MG sports car. How about that? To put this into context, the only other student with a car that I and my friends knew was a man who hoped to be a vicar. He drove a Morris Minor Traveller, the one with wood on. He had the car and just needed the degree. One day, so it was a pretty rare thing, and to have an MG sports car, this was super flash. One day, as Anne and I were driving home from the university in the MG, a car overtook us and forced us to stop at the side of the road. A red-faced, agitated man got out and immediately came to the offside window. He seemed fairly incandescent with rage and told me that he was an off-duty policeman. Unable to restrain himself, he barked, "Did you see what you did at that last roundabout, Sonny?" I replied, "No, I'm sorry, officer, I totally missed it." "Well," he said, "I was already on the roundabout. You cut me off, you fool. In my book, that constitutes dangerous driving." He then pulled a notebook out and a pencil from his pocket, checked his watch and started to scribble notes. "Do you own this car?" he asked. "No, I don't, officer. It belongs to a friend," I replied. "Oh, does it? Does it indeed? Well, could you show me your driver's license then?"
This is very good.
"I'm sorry, officer. I don't actually have a driving license."
I hope this conversation keeps going.
"Oh dear, he said in the way that officials in old British films used to say when what they really meant was, "I've got you now, you fop, you no good wastrel." Right, so what about insurance?" he went on. "Are you insured to drive this car?" I'm afraid it's a no again, officer," I said. "I don't have any insurance either." "Good heavens, great Scott!" he replied. "You're in for a long stretch, chummy, and no mistake. Do you even have the owner's permission to drive the car?" "No, I don't," I said. The policeman looked like it was Christmas. However, before he could say anything else, I added, "But why aren't you asking the driver these questions?"
Yes, silly boy.
At this point, he looked into the car and saw that there wasn't actually any steering wheel in front of me. Wild Bill had bought a left-hand drive car, perhaps to ensure that his beloved daughter eventually came home. Biting his tongue, the policeman went round to the other side of the car and spoke to Anne. She gave him a little speech along the lines of, female American accent, Simon.
Yes!
"I'm just a guest in your little country. And still becoming used to driving on the opposite side of the road.
Found my brow.
I'm so sorry."
This could make pick of the week.
I think. The policeman let her off with a caution.
but he did.
And a couple of death ray looks in my direction, and then he drove off. Anyway, Father Simon, through the collective, I seek forgiveness from the policeman because I really could have told him earlier in the piece that I wasn't the driver. But you know what students can be like. To assist your task, I can say that no animals were injured in the course of this confession, and also I'm not an art student. So
Very good. Well done.
just a little bit of, because he knows who he's appealing to here, does Robert. I mean, nicely set up, respect to him, because he didn't do anything wrong at all. It's the crazy policeman who was obviously very annoyed about the way things went, but he made a value judgment which turned out to be the wrong call.
Bobby's scratching a head that worries me. That.
No. The thing is about the policeman, surely. I'm jumping forward to CSI. We know the evidence. You always look at the evidence. You never assume. Yeah, don't you? So the policeman's totally in the wrong. I mean, he's in the wrong for jumping the gun, but surely that goes against the whole nature of what he does.
If you had a car in the 60s with the steering wheel on the wrong side, then you were clearly a bad 'un.
Well, Well, he hadn't
Slightly
even noticed
strange.
that. If he'd have seen that, that would have been fine. The fact is, the policeman had jumped before he'd actually looked at the evidence and taken a long look at what was going on. And that's what he should have done, stepped back and thought, actually, what's going on here? The thing is, he needs retraining. So you are completely forgiven, Robert.
Novice Nigel.
Well, I think the policeman's obviously a complete idiot. And anyone who gets out with the pad and paper as well, off duty. I think so, don't worry about that. You're absolutely forgiven for that completely, Robert. But the person I'm not forgiving is Wild Bill. Apart from the fact that I think he obviously enjoys Simpsons in the Strand, which I presume is a great old British institution.
Is that right?
Restaurant. But going to buy your daughter at uni a brand new MG, I mean, it's just way too flash. That's really poncy and unethical and bad.
But Robert knew when he was onto a good thing,
Oh,
didn't he? Clearly.
didn't he? Yeah,
Hold on. An MG's a fabulous car.
Of course it is, a lovely car, but she's a student, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want to
Love
waste it on a
cars.
student.
She might have loved it. I had classic cars when I was young. I bought myself. They're lovely cars to have.
Yeah.
You're entitled to.
Yeah, but her dad bought her a brand spanking MG at uni. I mean, that's not right.
She might have had to do stuff.
Anyway,
at home
Matt,
for-
go on.
What, clean out the stable.
The other two
clean,
can argue.
clean,
Yeah.
clean the plane.
Yeah, carry on, Matt.
I'm going to forgive, just because of the accents. I love the accents. Let's forgive just for that.
Yes.
Well, that was just me.
Yes, I know, but it's even the interlude with Wild Bill for no reason didn't forward the story at all. But it's very funny for the accents.
Okay, on that basis.
Forgive.
This is the place where penitents seek our pardon for their sins. Simon Mayo's Confessions Podcast.
Father Simon and the purveyors of posthumous pardon. I am writing to ask forgiveness for an event, not from this century,
Wow. This is the first.
or even the last, but from the mid-1800s.
Oh,
Good.
wow.
How about
me.
that? It's a story of great wrong, which has become a bit of a legend in my family, and I feel that as I'm part of the direct bloodline, it's my duty to bring it out into the open and hopefully seek belated forgiveness.
This is good.
It's got an epic feel. My great-grandmother, who we will call Roberta, was a peripatetic teacher. For those who don't know, this is a teacher who will travel from school to school, teaching their speciality, which for Roberta was home economics. She would spend 3 months at a time touring schools in a given region, teaching eager-to-learn pupils the art of mid-19th century home economics. The time for her to leave on her next tour of duty was imminent, where she'd be visiting the rural schools of Wales. More importantly, Roberta wouldn't be seeing the love of her life for the next 3 months, and we're going to call him Sydney. On the evening before Roberta was due to leave, Sydney was starting to anticipate the heart-wrenching moment of watching the steam train steal his beloved from him for 12... I'm imagining Sydney's going to be played by Nigel Havers. To anticipate the heart-wrenching moment of watching the steam train steal his beloved from him for 12 whole weeks. And in a situation like that, there is only one thing a man can do. He proposed to her, presumably anticipating a positive reply, which would leave him feeling more secure in the future of their relationship. However, Sydney didn't get the reply that he wanted. Rather than saying yes, Roberta told him to meet her on the platform the following morning when she would give him her answer. Wow, what a tease.
Yeah, I like it.
She needs to be sure, though, doesn't she?
Do you think?
Yeah, there's things to consider.
Okay. Imagine the scene the following morning. Roberta has her cases beside her as the sun rose on a crisp, clear spring morning, and she waited to give her beloved the answer which he had been waiting for all night. But after waiting for some time, Sydney still hadn't arrived, and before long the train was heard whistling in the distance. The chuff-chuffing of the train got louder, the billows of steam came closer and closer. Roberta got more and more anxious, but still no Sydney. Roberta's eyes searched up and down the platform, and finally she saw a figure. There, running towards her, was her man. But actually it wasn't Sydney. Instead, it was his brother, Lawrence, out of breath and looking very unsure about what he's about to say. Lawrence told Roberta that he had come because Sydney was actually too lazy to get up, and that he was actually still sound asleep in bed.
Wow.
Being the gentleman that he was, Lawrence had to race down to the station in the hope of getting there before the train left so he could break the news to Roberta. As you can imagine, Roberta was heartbroken by Sydney's laziness and indifference, and after 2 months touring Wales, this had turned to anger and revenge. So on her return, Roberta did what she thought would get back at Sydney the most. She married Lawrence. Out of spite.
Out of spite.
No.
Great. Well done.
Now, you may be wondering what transgression has been committed for this tale to be written. Well, at some point later, and the details of when or how may have been lost in the mists of time, it transpires that Sydney didn't oversleep on the day of Roberta's departure at all. In fact, he'd actually been deliberately locked in his bedroom. It turns out that his brother Lawrence, from afar, was also passionately in love with Roberta and wasn't about to let Sydney break his heart by taking this beautiful teacher as his bride. And as much as I seek absolution for this crime on behalf of my family, I find myself in a difficult position. Because on the one hand, a very dastardly deed was committed by Lawrence, so forgiveness is needed for him. However, my very existence is a result of this heinous act, so I'm rather grateful for what Lawrence did. I therefore place this tale of love and deception in the hands of the purveyors of posthumous pardon to decide firstly if I should ask for forgiveness for the acts of my great-grandfather, and if I did ask, would they forgive him? So it's certainly the oldest story, taking us into new areas.
Yeah, I like this.
It's like a Sunday afternoon drama. That's what it is. So a tale from the mid-1800s, and there's no doubt that a wrong was very definitely committed. Fancy locking your brother in his room so he couldn't go and propose to the woman of his dreams. That's got to be unforgivable. But from Andy's point of view, he wouldn't be here if that actually hadn't happened. Or maybe it would be a different version of Andy. Now Bobby's looking troubled by this one.
Well, do you remember Katie only a couple of weeks ago who did a similar thing? Katie, who made me very, very, very disappointed.
Yes.
I mean, it was
Yeah,
probably one of the
yeah.
most difficult ones we've had to reside over. There's two problems with
Was that
this.
the Valentine's Day?
No, that was the girl that the two best friends. There was the three of them.
Oh, the love triangle one, yeah.
And she basically lied to both of her friends,
That's right.
and then
That
was
was
quite
a terrible
smug about
thing.
it. It was a terrible thing. The thing is, of course, it's not Andy's fault, and I understand the history between us. But the problem is also Roberta, because she only married Lawrence out of spite. She didn't even know him. So the thing is they're all wrong. That's the thing is Lawrence is definitely wrong. But you know what? You can get out of your bedroom. I'm sure you could lower yourself. I'm sure you can still get out of your bedroom
Well, he couldn't.
somehow.
You don't think he could be bothered
Well,
to
also,
go?
I know it's Victorian times, but they did have the penny stamp then, didn't they? You could have written a letter and said, look, I was locked in my bedroom. Even if she said yes to Lawrence at the station, you can get on a train yourself, Sydney, and chase after her and go, look, I've been misrepresented.
Well, you never knew where she was. She was at one school and then the next school, anywhere in
Okay,
Wales.
so actually, I'm going to say, Andy, this isn't your fault. But I don't think Lawrence is forgiven, because it's still not right.
Still not right.
It's still
absolutely.
not right, not forgiven.
Brother Matthew.
Well, yeah, you do have to ask, as Bobby's pointed out, what on earth is Sydney doing in all of this time? Why isn't Sydney ever mentioning to Roberta, by the way, I would have come, but, Lawrence locked me in my bedroom and I couldn't get out, or else I would have definitely have been there. And so, and
you
I
couldn't
love...
send a text, back
Well,
in those
it
days.
was just before the time of text, wasn't it? 1800s. And the other point that's worth saying is that, frankly, marrying out of spite. Well, you've got to have a reason to go up the aisle, and why not go through the entire ceremony just so you can give a knowing look to someone on the groom's side of the family? So why? I'm all in favour of that. And isn't it true that love takes us on many twists and turns? I think Jane Austen probably said that.
Probably.
Pretty sure she did. So I am going to forgive.
Simon Mayo's Confessions podcast.
And his confession there, as a result of which we had that brilliant People's Verdict we played you earlier. I wish my brother had locked me in my room all those years ago. We're still amazed that we had a confession from the 19th century. Surely next week a confession from the future?
What? That's not how it works at all.
Well, you could send in a confession for a crime you haven't yet committed, or a bad thing that you think you might be committing in a few days' time.
Right. I mean...
But also, 19th century, confessing on behalf of members of your long-dead family. Let's go back in time. Let's go back to the 1066.
I think this is unexplored territory. We should definitely do that.
Historic confessions.
Yes, please.
a new world opens up. Confessions at bbc.co.uk. So it's not completely the end, although that's the end of this week's Confessions, but now it's time for a trip down memory lane with a confession from the crypt. This is a confession that's fondly remembered due to our extreme professionalism and ability to remain in control whilst broadcasting live on air. Susan Lee was one of several people who've asked to hear this tale again. Susan says, please repeat the Turkish bath confession. This involved newlyweds, but to be honest, the main thing I remember is everyone in the studio being helpless with giggling. And I was crying with laughter, so probably missed half the story anyway. I haven't been able to listen to this tale since, as I've only recently started accessing podcasts and all that type of newfangled material that you've got. Hoping you can make my day and so many other people's too by adding it to a podcast very soon. It's also been requested by Added Twig, Catherine Grinney and Deborah Howell. But another good reason for its inclusion is that Michael Palin's buttocks are mentioned.
Are they?
Yes.
Yes,
And as
no,
Michael
they
was
do.
our guest on the regular drive time show that we do, Monday to Friday, 5 till 7, it only seemed fair. Here is this week's classic confession, Cold Turkey.
The Confessions Podcast.
Dear Father Simon, I request forgiveness from the collective for misdemeanours committed some 23 years ago. It all started when Michael Palin did his Round the World in 80 Days programme.
I so remember that.
Do you?
That was such a
Do you
beautiful
so remember
series.
that?
Yeah,
Do you
it
so
was...
remember that, Matt?
I so do.
Okay, you too. Okay, I said so. It was so brilliant. It was so
It was so
fantastic.
brilliant. It was. Very,
Carry
very
on,
good.
sorry.
My husband and I met whilst travelling on a 3-month overland holiday in India. We both travelled to quite a few places around the world and consider ourselves quite adventurous. So when he proposed to me on the 3rd of December 1992, we naturally wanted to go somewhere exotic for our honeymoon. Istanbul was the place of choice, and we stayed in the Hotel Semengen, a converted old Ottoman house in the old quarter of Istanbul. Very authentic, we thought. We looked forward to bartering in the spice market and eating genuine Turkish delight, which is nothing like the stuff you buy over here, and seeing the sights of the Hagia Sophia and the Bosphorus. The hotel was next to a railway station, and on our first night at precisely 4:05 a.m, a train whistled past and rattled the walls and the floor of our room. Then another went past at 10 minutes past 4, and then another at 15 minutes past 4, and so on. You get the picture. At least we can say that the earth literally moved. The following day, we toured this wonderful city. Now, having watched Michael Palin travelling around Turkey, we decided that we absolutely must have a Turkish bath.
Okay.
As it happened, the hotel had a hammam, which is a Turkish bath, in the basement, so we booked a session at reception, and on the designated day, we went down to have our Turkish experience. As we entered, we were given a smallish checkered cloth folded on top of a fluffy white towel. That was the Orb, wasn't it? They did that.
Just one.
Very good.
And we were told to put our clothes into a locker. Well, I think they had one each. I don't
Just
think
one
they had to
towel.
share one towel. Should we keep our swimming costumes on? My new husband asked. Good heavens, no, I said. Remember Michael Palin showing his buttocks on the BBC?
Yes, of course. We all remember that. Yeah.
No, we wouldn't be laughed at, I declared boldly. Do you remember that?
I do remember it,
remember
yeah.
I should mention that my husband is very shy and would not normally entertain this type of thing. But being my new husband and wanting to keep the peace, he decided to strip naked and wrap the fluffy white towel around his waist. I did the same, wrapped the towel at the top, covering my indignity. We were then shown into a room full of Germans and Dutch, all of whom had the smallish checkered cloth strategically positioned to cover their embarrassment. Their eyebrows raised considerably when we entered the room, and mumbles of, and I quote here, "gewagt for der English" could be heard, which means, because I checked, daring for the English.
Oh, hello.
My husband shot me a glare I will never forget. We decided there and then that we would not go into the chamber alone. We were definitely going to go in together. So into the marble-clad room we both went, and we met our young hammam wearing his checkered cloth around his waist. I think that's what they all do. First he buffed and washed my husband thoroughly.
just face the other way? Me and Matt, look at the wall.
I rehearsed this and everything. Right. Now the music's changed. My husband looked distinctly nervous. But finally he was...
Should we read it? Have we got one we did earlier?
Finally... I'll just go fast.
Do it.
Finally he was being rinsed and it was my turn. At last, I too had been scrubbed clean and we got up to leave. It's not like this at the golf club, my husband said. At this point, the hammam... This is the final point here. At this point, the hammam literally jumped onto the marble slab and said, and I quote, "Massage me massage, me massage." Steve and I looked at each other, thinking this might be the way of things here. I can't believe that we did this. But anyway, so we started soaping his body, trying to keep our arms as rigid and as far away as possible. "We didn't know this was part of the deal," I shouted. He just smiled. To say that we hurried the whole thing was an understatement, and we finished off with the largest, coldest bucket of water I could carry. We couldn't get out of there quickly enough. After that, we kept seeing the hammam around the hotel, who always winked at us. You don't want that, do you, really? So I don't seek forgiveness for my poor husband trying to impress me on our first married days together. He has surely made up for it since. Nor do I seek forgiveness from giving mixed messages to the hammam, who was obviously used to having guests arriving wearing the checkered cloth. But I seek forgiveness from the poor German and Dutch tourists who were subjected to our less than perfect naked bodies. I throw myself at your mercy. Well, that took at least 3 minutes longer than it should have done, for which I can only apologise. Anyway, there you go. It's another one of the stories with the Brits being surprised by what you have to do when you go abroad and when you get involved in that kind of thing with a fluffy towel. What do you say there, Sister Bobby?
Well, I remember that series with Michael Palin. I remember thinking when I watched him have his Turkish, whatever it was,
Experience.
that there was no way that I would do that in the world ever. And it was a perfect example of watching a travel programme and learning what not to do. So I would say, Jackie, well done for your bravery, because there is no way that I would ever do that. It's interesting, because I suppose on your honeymoon you weren't really expecting
No.
that kind of...
What's this hammam? What's that
Setup?
jumping on the slab saying massage me? I don't think that's part of the deal, is it?
No, it was a bit of a surprise.
Oh,
Jackie,
my
thank
God.
you for one of the best laughs in this studio ever. Of course, you're absolutely forgiven.
I think I'd want a discount if the masseuse is after a...
Well, you'd have thought so,
anyway,
yes.
what do you think there?
I'm beginning to wonder whether our continental cousins are coming up with these rituals just to embarrass us. That actually they don't do this normally. It's only when Brits turn up on holiday that they go, and now we're going to do that bit where we all strip down and get buffed by the masseuse. Because I can't believe that these kind of things happen. It only seems to happen when we go abroad and find ourselves getting thoroughly embarrassed.
In the small checkered towel.
Yes,
department.
and make sure we get the really small towels out, because you know what the Brits are like. So I am going to forgive, because if nothing else, as Bobby says, it is hilarious.
Simon Mayo's Confessions Podcast.
And that was your confession from the crypt this week. And the thing, listening back to that, is that I think you can just hear me say, I've rehearsed this and everything.
Yeah.
Because I knew that there were a couple of lines in there that might cause problems.
But did you know it was going to be those particular words, buff and shine?
Well, I thought the first one was okay. It was the second one that I thought was going to get me, but I didn't actually get to the second one without going on the first.
The thing is, it was all very innocent. Really.
Yes, although
Not in my head.
I remember the original confessional email, and it was.
Was there a director's cut?
There's a director's cut because the guy who hops on the table at the end,
Yeah.
him.
yeah?
That's when it got.
Yeah, that it did. Yeah.
Anyway, if you got a request for a vintage confession, send us the details, please. confessions@bbc.co.uk. We'll do our best to dig them out of the crypt. Sister Bobby, you forgave 2 this week, which you're going soft.
I know, sorry.
Yearly tally 18.5 to 15.5. Matt, you forgave everyone. Classic.
Good.
Takes
Classic
you to
me.
30 forgives and
Yep.
4 not forgives.
Correct.
What a pushover.
No, just, sing the best in everyone
I reckon
again.
your son, what a dream he must have. You just forgive him absolutely
Everything's
everything.
fine.
What would I have to do for you not to forgive me?
Oh, let me list the ways.
Let me just try stuff.
Support Everton.
Is that what I have to do?
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
football team?
Actually, Manchester United would be the worst
that
offence.
would be worse for everyone.
If you made it to the end of the last podcast, I asked you to tweet bottom burps in the mist. Thanks to Michelle Robinson, Rayner, and all the others that did so. Sorry, no bumper stickers left. I don't know what we can do about
What
that.
are we going to do?
I don't know. Order some more at some
We've got
stage.
to bribe people somehow.
This week's code phrase is Michael Palin's buttocks. Why not?
Yes, let's have people tweeting
seems
that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, and don't forget, you can hear our entire radio show in all its glory every weekday from 5 here on BBC Radio 2. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Matt and Bobby, for taking part.
Thank
Thank you.
The Confessions Podcast. Go in peace.